you for very kind words. Most of... Thank you. I'll be speaking here. Thanks. Take this now. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm speaking about business and the rule of law. Business persons bring market reality into the courts of law daily. Business people speak reality, common sense, logic, financial logic, where lawyers speak the dissection of words and the interpretation of meanings where a word has simply one meaning. But conversely, business persons also have to bring the rule of law into their daily business. If this is not done, then after a while a real danger emerges. Just as we did not bring constitutional reality into our politics, Kenya has landed up by having politics without any rules. You can do anything, anyhow, in order to secure a political result, a political office. And once office is obtained, we are prevented from asking, how was it obtained? And so, we should not land business into that situation where business too becomes a set of transactions without any rules. That is not rational capitalism. So, as business persons, you have to continually press for rational capitalism. And the basis of rational capitalism, or some of the bases, are the enforceability of contracts, the protection from the courts against fraudulent business, the availability of judges who are independent of political control. Because in Kenya, or anywhere where state actors are the richest businessmen, your competitors are also used to getting their way in business as much as in politics, before judges, and also, sadly, also before arbitrators. So watch your arbitration clauses carefully and try and seek a board of arbitrators which really genuinely gets you an independent arbitrator. Now, the safeguard for rational business is the rule of law. So the rule of law encompasses fair and impartial judges, equality of parties before the court, remedies for breach of agreements, independence of the judiciary, but, and I'll come to this later, independence of public officials, the civil service, and access to all these protections is what is set out, and the visible and the public contract of the rule of law between all Kenyans and all parties in Kenya is the Constitution. So all these safeguards are anchored in the Constitution. A live example of all these, meaning the presence of safeguards and the presence of processes, and yet the presence of a crisis, is the way in which the government has brought the Adani companies into the Kenyan commercial investment and national infrastructure scene. This is not rational capitalism. This is robber baron capitalism, where outcomes emerge and are ensured through the very close ties of the intending contracting parties with very high offices in both the states. Such capitalism disobeys, disregards, and disdains law and the Constitution. We must remind ourselves that the Adani entry, but we must remind ourselves, however, because that bad entry has not become a fait accompli only because there is a very strong public demand in Kenya for compliance with the Constitution and the laws in national decision making on such important deals, meaning for a return to rule of law. And for this demand, we have to thank the Gen Zs. Because the Gen Zs did not only speak for themselves, they spoke for the silent people in Kenya who had not spoken up, and any whole scientific, intuitive or whatever would say that when the Gen Z spoke, 80%, if not more, of the country said, yes, that's exactly correct. So thank you. It's therefore, we go back and say that politics is without rules in Kenya. But we should technically also look at it. How is that? What are we really saying technically? Technically, we are saying that whatever is being done is contrary to the Constitution. But it is contrary to the Constitution while there is already a Constitution in force. And so you have a Constitution in place and governance which is contrary to it at the same time. And so while there has been a Constitution in Kenya for long, we have had total control over the judges' decisions, torture chambers at Nyayo House, regular assassinations, Robert Oko, Bishop Muge, J.M. Kariuki, Karimin Duthu, Pio Pinto, Boya, Ngala, Father Kaiser, the IBC murder, as Macbeth said, will that long line continue forever? And yes, there is a real danger that authoritarian regimes reach that point where they tip over without solutions into this course of conduct, and they think that the assassination of one person ends their problems. And so, while from 25th June, they have looked for the one person or institution or organization which, if they can eliminate, they would put an end to the nonsense that these youngsters are doing. So they looked for these persons and said, this is Uhuru. And then they said, no, it is Raila. And then they said, no, and came up with Ford Foundation. And then they said, no, because he's meeting Ford Foundation a few days ago, forgetting that his wife was a recipient of that Ford Foundation money, and no doubt, because they're very generous, was passing on that money to them. So, all this was forbidden even by the old constitutions. But the contradiction, contra-constitutionalism, has an inevitable end. It breaks the country, because the country is torn between the two, and neither has a solution to offer to the wrongs that are going on in the country, or even the rights. And so, in 2008, we broke. Divided country, no solution, no belief in the presidency, no belief in the courts, no belief in the churches, no belief in the mosques, no belief anywhere. And that break in 2008, we were fortunate, we survived it, and we barely survived it, and we worked towards a new constitution and came to Constitution of Kenya 2010 to prevent a repetition. But we are now again still threatened by contra-constitutional governance and rule. So, indulge me to explain how is it possible to have a constitution and yet rule like this, a one-man rule, a one-party rule. And there are three constituents. There are many, but three major ones. The first one is taking total control of the judges and magistrates. By doing that, this deprives any political opponents, any person who has suffered an injustice, without a remedy, to bring such persons to become without a remedy. And when they have no remedy, this control continues and contra-constitutionalism continues. Secondly, and this is what escapes our sight, because it's not as visible, and it is this: by taking not only control of the judges and magistrates, number two, control of the civil servants, which is now called the public service. So, President Moi would rule every morning. He was extremely hard worker. He would be up at 4, and he had an arrangement with God that I'll pray to you daily, but you don't audit too closely what I do the rest of the So he would then ring up intelligence. What has happened during the night? And intelligence would say, well, in that time there were provinces, that coast region was quiet, but there was a problem in say, Rift Valley. Then he would ring up the provincial commissioners and get their account, what has happened, and they would say nothing has happened, or 3 things happened in Rift Valley. So he gets that. Then he would ring up a constable in a police station in wherever, say the Rift Valley, for example, and get his information from that. And then, if it was being fostered, for example, by James Orengo, as Mr. Mesha said, then he would tell the police station there, we are arresting that guy and we are sending him to Mwea instead of Kisumu. And you better watch what's going on and who is going to. So a thank you to Mr. Mesha for standing as surety on a bed. It was not easy then. His name, his particulars, everything would be fed into intelligence. So, what happens is, Moi then instructs the provincial commissioner to tell the police to go and arrest Mr. Orengo. Now, you don't hear about that step being taken because the policemen say, well, what is the charge? What shall we? And the president would say, well, that's your problem. You go and find a cause to arrest him. I want him out from this situation here. So you don't see that. He is arrested, and then the instruction goes to the treasury saying, take away the allocation of this district in Nyanza. James comes from Siaya, and see that the road which was to be built there is stopped. And then rings up the DO there and says, tell them, everybody, at the next baraza that the road is spoiled because Nyanza is making trouble through Mr. Orengo. None of this is in the newspapers, and this is going on all over the country. That is why you saw when the president moved to say Naivasha, he would stand there, and in a line there were the PC, the DC, and with their helmets and uniforms and their saluting, etc. And he's talking directly to them, bypassing the MP, the minister. They're all there, but they're nothing. He doesn't need them. Does he need lawyers? No. Does he need accountants? No. Because he tells the treasury, this is to be done. To those who are accountants here, let's take Goldenberg. The payments from the treasury require 4 people before the LPO can be acted upon with a check. You've got the clerk in accounts who sets out, who's told, pay this much, so many million, and it is for exports. So he does that. Where's the voucher? Well, fine, it'll come. We'll give it to you. Then it goes to the cashier. The cashier looks and says, fine, this is there. It goes to internal audit, and then it goes, number 4, to the permanent secretary, who is the accounting officer of every ministry. 4 signatures were needed. How come there were 4 signatures always available for a total of 4 billion shillings at a time when we never talked in billions? It was finally in the Goldenberg Commission when the PS, Dr. Koinange, medical doctor, comes from a family, extremely respected family. He's asked in Goldenberg, why did you sign these things? He said, because I was afraid of my life.